I'm talking to Andy Letourneau, one of my colleagues from 3Cloud. That's coming up next. All right, Andy, first of all, tell me about the clapperboard. Where did this come from?
Okay, this is actually from SacraCon. I forgot what year it was, but 2005 it looks like. It says that on the back. This was something that my husband got when he won the anime music video contest.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that. Never used one of these before. So, Andy, you and I have been working together at Pragmatic Works and 3Cloud for the past 4 years or so.
Something like that, yeah, 2017.
And then you were involved in the Oregon SQL data community, what we now call the Oregon data community, when you were up in Portland. And now you're here in Cave Creek, just north of Phoenix. So tell me about the climate change. So what drew you to Phoenix?
Well, my parents had retired in Tucson, so we wanted to, move out closer to them, and also because we're thinking about where do we want to retire.
Yeah.
And the drier air is much better for people who have a tendency towards arthritis. And I was starting to have
as well.
Yes, I've been starting to have problems. Walking up and down the stairs, and my knees just don't want to do it. But then whenever I went to Arizona, I was like, I can move. I don't feel like I'm 80 years old when I wake up.
Yeah. So it's the second week of October, and it is really comfortable out here on your back porch.
Yes, sitting here, short
and
sleeves and shorts.
It was a little chilly in Vancouver when we left left a week ago, so it's nice. All right. Well, it's probably pretty obvious that we match.
Yes, very spiffy shirt.
Yes, this is an awesome shirt.
Where did you get it?
I had a very good friend made this for
Yeah.
me. She was going to co-present at a SQL Saturday almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and then there was this crazy global pandemic that happened, and we didn't ever get a chance to present.
I know.
So we were going to present at the SQL Saturday here in Phoenix, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, but now at least we actually get a chance to wear our matching
shirts
together.
So so we are in the cloud.
Yes.
So Andy, tell me about what you find most interesting about the work that you do at 3Cloud.
I think getting the opportunity to meet different groups of people and see different ways that they interact. I mean, it's and because each project a lot of times is only 3 to 6 months long, it means I get a lot more opportunities to meet a lot more different people, but I don't have to change jobs every 6 months.
Yeah, the variety's great, isn't
Right,
it?
the variety's great. We get to used to be able to travel to different places. Hopefully that'll start again sometime. Which was great. I liked getting a chance to meet different places. Come in and go to different offices. Plus, it's just a lot of fun working with cloud stuff. I really like it.
Yeah. Now you're working with a few different technologies. Now, of course, at 3Cloud we're all about Azure, and we span all of the services, not only within the data platform, but in app dev and infrastructure and networking, the whole thing. Now, traditionally, you've been working with SQL Server for quite a while, and I know that you're pretty adept.
Since SQL Server was a little baby, I started. Yes.
But lately, I know that you're working with Azure Synapse Analytics. You've worked with Azure Databricks. So, you just in a nutshell, what's interesting about these new cloud technologies?
It's different.
Yeah.
It's each of them has a different language to work with. They have a different combinations of things that you can do with them. One thing I really liked about Synapse that impressed me, I'd heard it on the ads but didn't believe it until I started running my own queries, is I would run a query on the legacy SQL Server and wait and wait, and 10 minutes later the information shows up. I do it in Synapse and it's up there in a few seconds, and it's the same query, the same data.
Yeah.
And it was just really impressive to see that, it's 60 times faster.
Right.
And you don't believe it until you see it, and then you're like, no, I don't want to query your old system. I'm going to query this one because I get the answer back faster.
When you have 60 servers running in parallel, running those massive distributed queries, that makes a big difference.
It was very impressive, and I was like, that is really fun.
Good. Well, and you, one thing I've kind of noticed is that you're not shy about stepping up and trying new things.
I
when
like
it comes
new
to
stuff.
working
Yeah.
with new tools and new languages. You like to challenge yourself.
Yeah, it's to me it's more fun to learn something new. It was like I started studying some Databricks and I said, give me a Databricks project, please. And I finally got on, I got my first Databricks project, had somebody else who was more of an expert than I, of course, on that with me to help me out through the code. And now this one, we're actually using Synapse Spark, which is very similar to Databricks, but not quite the same. So I'm kind of now learning something new, finding out, okay, well, how much of that code can I reuse, and how much of it do I have to completely rewrite, because Synapse Spark is not the same beast. It's close, but not quite.
True. Within 3Cloud, we have our internal communities, and we're as a company, we're upwards of 250, 300 people now. We're pushing
Yeah, I know.
those numbers. And we have internal communities around the technologies and the tools that we use. But then we also have, external communities. So, I know that you've been involved in user groups and you've attended, in the past conferences like the PASS Summit. So let's start with that.
Okay.
So what do you find most interesting, and where do you find value in being involved in the larger data community out in the world?
Yeah, the first many times that I went to the PASS Summit and other ones, it was pretty much solely just I needed to learn. I needed to absorb all the information to help me, build out my background in technology. And I realized that those big conferences, you got all day long, you've got 8 hours a day for 3 days of just training in person where you can actually have the chance to ask questions. Then I started to get to know some people and realized, wow, now I can go ask them some of the advanced questions, even outside of the actual conferences. So I started learning that networking was a good thing, and that actually, to some degree, helped me get some of the jobs. When I started working at Pragmatic Works, when I went into interview, the people that I interviewed with happened to be people that I had met at PASS, because they were in the Pragmatic Works booth, and I had talked to them beforehand.
Nice.
So it kind of made it a little easier to interview because I already knew these people.
Yeah.
Rather than meeting strangers, and they already knew something about me.
Okay.
So
How about our internal communities at 3Cloud? How I don't know, what do you enjoy about the company culture and how we work together?
I feel that a lot of people feel free to actually ask questions. They're not afraid to ask questions, try to learn, and to admit, well, I don't know something, but I'm pretty sure there's at least 5 people in our group that does know the answer. And I think that it's wonderful that anytime I've sent out an SOS, that there's been at least 1, maybe 2 people who have come back and said, oh, I've got the answer here, let me help you.
Yeah. And we have a Teams channel within 3Cloud called SOS.
Right.
When somebody's working on a project, they're challenged with something, they say, hey, here's my problem, SOS, I need some help. And it spawns mentorship and guidance, and sometimes none of us know the answer, but
That's
we're
true.
willing to kind of jump in and look at it together.
Right, yeah, and that's what's nice, is that even though we're all over the country, it's almost like being able to go over to somebody's desk and ask them a question, but at least this way, though, you can send out a broadcast help, and then somebody from anywhere who's got time can be able to answer it, rather than trying to tap a bunch of people on the shoulder in the office until you find the right person.
Yeah. I think in a lot of different jobs and different roles, when somebody knows how to do something, that's valuable to them. And they might hold on to that and might not be willing to share so much. What's different about our work
Everybody
environment?
seems to be willing to share, which is great. And you ask questions, somebody's like, oh, here's a sample code, or they'll say, oh, it's on my blog post, and here's the URL. If they know it, or if they've had it before, and because we're not acting like we're competing against each other, we're trying to work with each other to help each other out.
Yeah, so we can grow together.
Correct.
Rather than, this is
Right, this is
my
right.
value. Yeah.
But it's also because there are a lot of people, but we're all on different projects, but we're not competing against each other on there. So I think that's also what makes a difference. In a regular company, you're sort of competing against the other DBA to make sure that you're the one who gets the recognition that you've done stuff. But here it's, well, you're on this project, but then you're going to be on another project when you're working with this other person. So if you help them now, then maybe they'll help you when you get on next project with them.
What goes around comes around.
Exactly.
We help each other. So you work pretty hard. I know you're up early in the morning. You're supporting East Coast customers in
Yep.
various projects. And even though I see you working back here on your back deck, and you've got a beautiful view of the Sonoran Desert out here, or the Arizona Desert, I know that you're pretty dedicated in your work. How do you offset that?
I have
How do you unplug?
hobbies.
Yeah. What are your hobbies?
Okay, I have a couple of hobbies. I belong to a book club, and well, we drink a lot of wine, we do a lot of talking, but that's a typical book club. So that's kind of the people that I work with. My neighbors all have critters. Sometimes I'll go out there to decompress.
Yep. You were telling me about going hiking with the neighbor's goats.
Yes, there's
Taking the
nothing
goats
like
on a hike. That's pretty cool.
there's nothing like having a baby goat sitting on your lap, you know.
And we haven't heard from the donkey yet. Earlier, we heard the donkey making noise.
Oh, don't worry, they'll do it at some point in time. They're waiting for the opportune moment, I'm sure. And then the other thing I do is I do a lot of sewing and crafting.
Yes. And again, back to the cloud shirts.
Yes.
And not only are you a very accomplished clothing maker with the sewing machine, but you also collect antique sewing machines.
Yes, I do. I have 25 sewing machines, and I have a couple of embroidery machines. So I have a 15-needle embroidery machine that, I embroider the shirts for my husband, and I've actually sold shirts to some of the local businesses who, they want to do a small order of about, maybe 5 to 10 shirts. They ask me because most of the stores, you have to have at least a dozen or more.
Okay. Now tell me about your wine collection. How did you get into collecting exotic wines?
Well, we just started trying wine when we lived in Oregon. There was a while there where, Guy would occasionally go, and we found a very nice wine shop called Liner and Elson. And he would go in there and he would taste wine. And then we just started learning about it, and then he's like, well, let's go get a big format bottle. And I'm like, well, if we do that, we need a place to store it, because if we want to keep it. So in our Oregon house, we built a wine cellar. And then, of course, since then, we started collecting more and more wine, because as we tasted it, we'd then go buy a bunch of whatever we liked. And over time, it builds up.
You were telling me that your first Power BI project was based on the inventory of your wine collection.
Indeed it was, yes.
Awesome.
It was a lot of fun. It was good data, and it showed me, what exactly my wine cellar looks like.
Well, this has been a great time. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you so much for inviting Sherry and I to actually mooch dock in front of your house. So we actually have the data box
And we
right out
actually
in front
cooked
of
for
us.
them, and you can tell that he survived.
Yes, yes. But I appreciate the hospitality, and look forward to many years of continued
Well,
working
yes,
with you.
you are welcome to come back.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right.
You heard it here.